Good afternoon, everybody. I'm so upset. I cannot get to my ugly Christmas sweaters. I'm gonna have to go in over the weekend and pull them out. My room is filled with it's like Santa's workshop with everybody's gifts. It's like the North Pole of our house. So I'm gonna have to kind of sift through everything and get to my ugly sweater. So unfortunately, I'm not looking very spirited today, but I am in there in spirit. Okay. So we have our warm up, we have a vocabulary Kahoot, and then I'm going to get you started on your pre-writing and planning sheet for your body paragraphs. Your warm up today is what should be included in the body paragraphs of Charlie's speech. Yesterday, you guys gave me several different elements that should be included in the informative speech overall. Which one of those are you going to be incorporating into your body paragraphs? So, as always, your OneNote binder, today's the 18th. You should have Monday through Thursday already filled out. And go ahead and pause the video here and get your warm up done. All right, now that you have your warm up, we did a Kahoot in class, but you are still able to play. If you go into Schoology and then week of 12-14 assignments and today's date, you will see the sub Kahoot on our prefix sub. Once you're in, you can get started and you can join if you click full screen. Oh, I thought it would open it up for you, but it doesn't. There you go. Okay. You just click in your nickname, click OK, and then you're good to go. All right. So please make sure that you do complete that. And then once you're finished, we are diving into, again, that informative speech. Remember, you guys are writing an informative speech that explains the effects of Charlie's operation, but from Charlie's point of view. Today, we're developing those body paragraphs. Those body paragraphs should be elaborating on our topic, which is Charlie post-surgery, and the effects that it had on him, and they should be elaborating on this through the use of evidence. So in your warm-up, you probably said that facts are going to be incorporated into here, details from the text, quotes from maybe Dr. Strauss, those different types of evidence, examples of what Charlie went through, some of his feelings, so on and so forth. All of that's going to be incorporated into your body paragraphs. So once you get in, remember your rubric is still a part of this. Please don't forget to read it. I am going to open the planning page itself. And just like yesterday, I'm going to incorporate the notes from your class period. So please make sure you click into those. I put the prompt up here from yesterday, but we're going to go ahead and dive into this first paragraph. So this is an example of a body paragraph. And I wanted you guys to see how the author used a topic sentence, how much evidence they included, and then the use of a concluding statement. So to open this, I would open it up in the app. Because I'm on my Mac, my desktop, I can actually do it right on the web page. So I am going to go into, and maybe I can't. There was a draw version. Oh, here, if I download it. Sorry guys, technical difficulties. There we go, that's how I did it. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and click draw. And I'm going to get my highlighter ready for the topic sentence. But this is a body paragraph from the launch text, The Human Brain. We read an introduction paragraph from that same text yesterday, and this is the first body paragraph. So it says, the brain is one part of the central nervous system, the system that controls all of the body's activities. The central nervous system is made up of the brain and the spinal cord. The brain is protected by the skull, and the spinal cord runs through vertebrae of the back, the bones that make up the spine. The spinal cord transmits messages between the brain and other parts of the body through nerve cells called neurons. If a person decides to pick up a book from the shelf, a voluntary action, the brain sends the message to the arm and hand through the spinal cord. And if a person touches a hot surface and burns his or her hand, an involuntary action, the nerve cells in the hand send a pain message to the brain through the spinal cord. So looking at this first paragraph, I know that the topic is the brain and the central nervous system and how they connect to one another. So that first sentence actually is the topic sentence. It says that the brain is one part of the central nervous system and then tells us what the central nervous system is. And don't make fun of my lines. You guys know I can't draw straight lines. So, this next sentence is actually a piece of evidence. It says that the central nervous system is made up of the brain and the spinal cord. This is a fact about the central nervous system, so it is considered, again, a piece of evidence. The brain is protected by the skull, and the spinal cord runs through the vertebrae of the back. Again, this is a fact. And then they go on to define what vertebrae are. And it's the bones that make up the spine. So that's a fact and a definition. Both of those are pieces of evidence. The next sentence says the spinal cord transmits messages between the brain and other parts of the body through nerve cells called neurons. Again, a fact. So I'm going to highlight this green as well because it is evidence. And these next two sentences are actually pieces of evidence called examples. If a person decides to pick up a book from the shelf, a voluntary action, the brain sends the message to the arm and hand through the spinal cord. That's an example of the central nervous system at work. And if a person touches a hot surface and burns his or her hand, an involuntary action, the nerve cells in the hand sends a pain message to the brain through the spinal cord. That is another example. So again, a piece of evidence. But looking at this, you guys can now tell that this paragraph doesn't have a concluding statement. It just stops talking about the central nervous system. The writer does not include a sentence that lets the reader know, hey, I'm about to finish up, okay? And it just stops abruptly. So you guys can see that that kind of throws the reader off because they're expecting a little bit more. You threw out two examples and then you just left this hanging. So what we're going to do today is gather evidence for the central ideas that you guys came up with yesterday. So I pulled these directly from the notes that were posted yesterday. And what your job is to go into the text and find supporting details that support that Charlie was feeling stressful after the operation because he didn't know if he was going to be intelligent. So for example, something that you might remember, from the text is Charlie saying that the operation didn't hurt, but the effects were not immediate. Was not instantly smart. I struggled with spelling. And remembering information. Okay? So I didn't pull an exact quote from the text, but what I did was I put it into my own words as if I was Charlie looking back on the experiment as the more intelligent Charlie, okay? And again, I wrote it from Charlie's point of view. So the information that you pull for central idea number 1 is probably going to be found at the end of day 1 in your OneNote binder and into day 2. For central idea number 3, that's going to be primarily found at the very end of day 2 and the beginning of day 3. And central idea number 3 is going to be found at the end or the second half of day 3. So use this as a guide to help you. Remember, you're pulling details from the text, but you're putting them in a condensed version of what Charlie would say post-operation, okay? When you're finished, you can begin drafting your body paragraphs using your model right here in your notes as a guide. We will continue drafting on Monday, and I hope you have a great weekend.